Hey guys, how's it going? This is Park. Today I want to share a special video because there's one trip that I take every year since 2016. This trip is a trip that is really more receiving than giving. You know, every time we take this trip, you become more thankful, grateful, and you just see your surroundings and you just really understand how lucky and blessed we are here in California or wherever we are. Um, I'm talking about a mission trip to San Quintin, Mexico. So in this vlog, I will show you a couple of videos, promos, commercials, recaps, highlights, and photos that I've done throughout the years in this trip in San Quintin. So we're gonna just dive into it, check out the way I've shot it, the experience with it, and just kind of how you can take some pictures, you know, to have this vibe. You know, this area of San Quintin, Mexico is a very rural area. It's a valley, you know, so it's very hot. It's super sunny. Hardly ever. There's only been 1 year where we encounter rain, but usually when we go, you know, it's just sunlight everywhere. A huge landscape. There's not a lot of green. So your photos, your videos, you know, you want to have these undertones to portray the experience as well. You know, usually in my photos when I go there, the prominent color is orange and browns, you know, and you want to kind of have this vibe to present to your audience the experience that you felt. You know, when you're there, you see just the valley, you know, the dirt, the homes, and you want to have this experience, you know. So we're gonna dive into these videos. I'll be watching them with you and kind of talking a little bit more about them, and then we'll just dive into the photography and the videos of it. If you're at a church and you want to do mission trips videos or just any other videos about social justice, you know, there's some elements that you want to touch in your pictures and your videos to portray the right message to your audience. You know, I learned this with a very close friend of mine, Chris. You know, he's been doing more mission trip photos and other kind of photography at this level. So in the first trip that I went, you know, I got to partner with him. That was actually the first time that I got to meet him, and he just showed me around, you know, what to really look for to portray the right idea, the right message, and really share the experience to everyone else. If there's one thing that we have to understand when we go on to a mission trip or any sort of events, is that your audience on the other side, when you present a video or when you present the photos, you have to give them an experience as if they were there. You, when you are in these places, you're looking at things, you're seeing colors, you're feeling the environment, you see the people, and sometimes we just don't think that all those areas and those aspects, you know, the environment, the weather, a huge landscape, you know, those are specific photos and parts in your video that you have to give to your audience. Because if your audience comes in and they only see pictures of people, or they only see a close-up and close-up of specific moments, they see the moment, but they miss out on the experience, you know. Because when we arrive, we are traveling, you know, it's like 5 hours trip, so you already got 5 hours of information in your mind, in your eyes, and your brain is putting together all these ideas of what is happening in the surroundings. But the people back home, they don't get to see that, you know. So when you're gonna start a video or you're gonna do photos, you always want to start with your establishing shots. You want to have a landscape picture, you're gonna have an opening shot that is bringing the audience back from their homes into the place that you want to take them. So that's number one. You want to start with your establishing moments, and we're gonna watch the first video from 2016. We'll see how it is. We'll talk a little bit about it.
This year in San Quintin, we had the opportunity to serve at 8 different churches in 8 different communities and give out toys to over 600 kids.
So, you know, we're starting, here you go, with your establishing shot. You see the environment, you start looking at the people, and then you go right into the message that you want to give. Once again, in this kind of videos, you know, there's usually an amount of time that you're supposed to make them. You know, ours are usually like 2 minutes to a minute. So you want to have the idea real quick, but you also want to have these elements. We did sort of like interviews in between, and to have the experience of the people. Usually the voiceovers are great, but you want to see the person. You want to see the person who's sharing those ideas. That way makes it more real. If you're doing church promos, church commercials, you want to show the people that went, because that way it's not like you're just selling a product, and it's not so rehearsed. You want to see people who actually felt something there, and you just prep them, and just ask them to share a little bit of what the story is. Usually when I go into this interviews with volunteers or people who actually went to the missions, they're not very savvy on not savvy they're not very experienced being out front of camera. They don't really know what to say, but you want to ask them for their story. You just want to ask them, just tell me how you felt. Give me 1 minute of your experience. And once they start sharing a little bit, they get a little bit more comfortable. You want to make sure, I always stand right next to the camera, so they're like kind of like talking to me. They feel more comfortable, like looking at this way, and it's very close, and you can still see this sort of profile, but they don't feel as self-conscious talking to the lens, because the lens is very boom, like talking to you and looking at you very prominently. There's like a big eye, so they get a little nervous. So number two, if you're gonna include this sort of interviews, just prep the people. They don't need a lot of prepping, and you don't need a half an hour story. I've also been in this sort of interviews that they actually tell me they want to tell me like the whole 3 days. We were driving in the vans, and then we stopped at 7-Eleven and we got some pizza. Like, no. Just tell me how you felt. We're gonna watch in this video what we did, but what we really want to know, what the audience wants to know at home, is how you felt. How was your experience? Did you meet one kid that impacted you? Did you meet one person?
My name is Carlos Daniel. The experience was a phenomenal experience. Had a great time with the people that volunteered. And it was a very unique experience because my second year doing this event, I realized the progress that has taken place from the prior year, and seeing how churches have been being built and being renovated in different areas. Overall, it was a great experience to be out there with the kids, running, playing soccer, and doing activities with them, and doing worship songs, and just to remind them and share the love of Christ.
You want the stories to come out in your videos. You want these moments to be shared in your interviews. Like, take us to the place and then give us a person, even if it's just one person that has that story. Just put it in your video. It's gonna make your video much more impactful, much more relevant, and you're gonna be able to touch a wider audience than just looking at pictures and looking at the video. Once you connect with someone and you realize, oh, this person who lives a life like me had this experience, so I want to have that experience. So point number 3 for me would be how close you are to your subjects. Your wide shots versus your close-ups. You want to have a really, really well mixed and balanced set of wide shots where you can see, there's 200 kids here waiting for a toy. You can see the broadness of it. You see a lot of parents and families sitting in the background. You see all the volunteers and the big team. You see those wide shots, but also you want to like mix that with those emotional close-ups. And your close-ups, you really want to be showing emotion. These kids are waiting, literally, they're waiting for a year for these churches to come, or these missionaries, or these volunteers, or these nonprofits to come and give them something. These kids don't really get Christmas toys, Christmas gifts. And when these trips and then these teams come together, you can see the emotion coming out of them. You really want to capture that in your photos. You want to capture that in your videos. Those emotional close-ups that very much contrast with the story of volunteers sharing their heart. That's the story from the perspective of us, but now you want a story from the perspective of them. How are they feeling? And not all the time these people are not going to share their story on camera. And also you want to be very respectful to not really ask them, unless you really connect with someone and they're sharing with you. You don't want to ask this like 6 years old or 10-year-old kid to share how he feels, you know. So you want to really capture that emotion and those stories through their eyes, through their faces, through their emotions. You know, sometimes in the beginning of your video, you're seeing, and you want to share, you want to tell this story. You know, when you arrive, these kids and these parents are still very like they're expecting of something, but they're very hesitant to open up. And you can see it in their faces. You know, it's very, very clear throughout the years I've noticed. You know, you can see in their faces that the apprehension, and some kids look like a little bit worried and scared, like who are these people coming? For some of them is the first time. Some of them are very excited. But you can see their faces, you know, very different from the first day to the third day. And you want to talk to that story. You want to tell that story to your audience as well. You know, you start your video, your opening shot, you know, start with your testimony video and your experience from a volunteer, and then you start showing, you know, the faces of the parents and the kids, a little bit more serious and a little bit more intense, and you can really show the status of their living at that point. As your video progresses and your story continues to develop, you start seeing like more joyful smiles, you know, the happiness when they receive the gifts, when they connect with someone, when they're sharing a story, when they meet somebody, you know, that really changes their lives as well. Because our lives are being changed through them, but their lives are also being changed through us. So, you know, you wanna tell that story. So I would say the 3 points for making this special mission trip videos, or any sort of videos where you wanna have that emotional connection with your audience, you know, set up your establishing shots. Point number one. Make sure that your audience knows where you are. Make sure that your audience knows where you are. Make sure they can see you get there, and they can just have an idea, besides faces and stories, of the elements. You know, show some houses, show some stores, show the road, show a dog, you know, who's there, because that's like a huge part of their environment. You know, just stray dogs or anything else that you feel that you are receiving when you're getting there. Show that to your audience so they understand. Number two, the story elements. Make sure you talk to some people on your team, someone whose story impacted you, and I think that's one of the most important aspects of the photographer and videographer. When you are in the trip, make sure you're talking to the team, because that's when you really find out who has a story to share. Everyone is going to receive something, but there's going to be those 3-4 people who have a story, you know, who connected with a kid, who talked to a parent, and just fluently can share that story. Those are the 3-4 people that you want to capture. You know, you're not going to capture 15 or the whole team and just get like small bits. You want to talk to those 2 people who have an impactful story. The ones that impact you are going to impact your audience. Number 3, you know, the variation of the shots. You know, you want to make sure you get the big picture. You want to see how many people were there. You want to see everything that happened, but you also want to dive deeper into those personal connections, those emotions in those faces, and that is how you produce this very emotional content for mission trips, for social justice, for anything else, for any story really that you want to share to the broader audience. You know, it's very, very special when you have a project like this. You know, it's not a project where you're selling a product. You're not trying to hype an event. You're not just doing a shoot for editorial or some models. You know, you're really dealing with people and with emotions. And the most special moment is when you show these videos to a bigger audience back at home. They have no context. They come and sit down in an audience, or they're at home scrolling through some videos. Their minds are in first world country. You know, their minds are in their daily living. What did I eat today? I'm gonna go to work. And then you dive into this piece that somebody produced and you get an emotion. That, I believe, is one of the most important and special aspects of videography and photography. When somebody looks at your picture or your video and you can really transmit a huge story and a huge emotion. I don't know, make them cry. Or if they don't cry, you know, just make them feel something that changes their day. you know, make them feel something that inspires them, that motivates them, and that really makes us feel, you know, thankful, and makes us realize that there's so much more that we can give to others or do for the community. So that was basically my 3 points on shooting a mission trip video. I hope you guys liked it. We're gonna be doing this mission trip again in December. The link is down here if you want to connect, if you want to sign up. I'll be there. I'll be shooting. I'll be trying to make another cool video, take some good photos, and just share the experience, you know. And later on in the year, probably at the end of December, I'll be sharing again the experience for 2019's trip. Meanwhile, I'll just show you a little recap of the other videos I've done from 2016, 17, 18. Hope you guys like them. Once again, thank you very much for tuning in. Subscribe, ring the little bell so you can get the notifications. Follow me on Instagram, and, you know, just talk to me, leave some comments, leave some DMs, and let's just have a conversation about this sort of videos, any project that you want to work on, or anything else about your church production. Any questions that you have, any questions that you have about your church production, I'll be glad to talk to you about it and help out, or even learn from you. You know, there's so many people that I learned from. Thank you for tuning in. See you guys later.